everyone, my name is Stephanie. I am a freelance writer, educator, and writing consultant. Thanks for joining me today. So this is the second of my series of videos about Preptober. That is, getting ready for November's National Novel Writing Month. If you don't know, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, when writers around the country write a novel in just 1 month. In my last video, I mentioned that I was surprised by how many of my creative writing students were daunted by the idea of NaNoWriMo. If you haven't watched that video yet, check it out. I will link it down below. But this video is going to be all about overcoming that surprise, overcoming that obstacle. And we're going to start at the very beginning. How the heck are you going to do this thing? So if you are like my students and you are a little bit on the fence about participating in Nano, then this video is for you, because today I wanted to talk about a Nano for every novel. Okay, so option 1, let's start out with the traditional. What is NaNoWriMo? Well, traditionally, what you do is you start a new novel on the first day of November, you push all the way through to 50,000 words on day 30 of November. Whether you're a pantser or a planner, most people agree that you should prep a little bit. If you're a pantser, your prep might consist of, figuring out who your characters are or what your central question of your story is. If you're a planner, your prep might be a little bit more intense. And herein lies the idea of Preptober. But regardless of how you approach it, the idea is to push through that new novel idea and maybe have a complete draft if you're writing a very short novel. There are some novels that are 50,000 words, but most are a little bit more than that. Or make it a good chunk of the way into the draft. This is what we would call a very traditional take on NaNoWriMo, and I did participate in this way in my first year. Some people might think it's easier because it is a new idea, and so you might be really jazzed about it, and that can push you farther towards your final goal. Sometimes I do think that starting off a new novel where I, as a plantser, which means I live somewhere between planning and pantsing my novels, am still sort of developing my ideas around the characters. Sometimes I think it can be difficult to start that off with those 50,000 words that need to come out at a much faster rate than we generally normally write, right? What you don't want is to run out of steam halfway through your novel, to burn yourself out, to get overwhelmed by it, and then not be able to finish. So this brings me to option 2, which is the option that I am taking this year, which is continuing a novel that you have already begun. I know, it's so shocking, right? To be honest with you, I don't get why people can be so shocked by this sometimes. I'm not totally on board. I don't really understand why some of my students were saying, well, I'm continuing my novel, so I can't just start doing NaNoWriMo. I mean, 50,000 words is 50,000 words, isn't it? Like I said, most books are going to be more than 50,000 words, so in my view, as long as you think you have 50,000 words left to write, why not go for it? Here's the pro of this to me. Beginnings and endings are some of the easiest things to write. There's a lot of plot points happening, there's a lot of structure, and there's a lot of excitement at those two moments. It's the mushy, murky middle that's difficult. So why not push out that crappy first draft of a mushy, murky middle during NaNoWriMo if you can? If you know that the middle is just going to be real rough for you and you're going to have to go back in revision and clarify a lot of things anyway, use Nano to your advantage. So that's basically what I'm doing. By the end of the month, I expect to be about 30,000 words into my current draft. So at the end of November, that would put me about 80,000 words in, assuming I win. Because I'm estimating the novel should come out at about 100,000 words, I still will have a ways to go, and I'm hoping to have, I know this is an ambitious goal, but I'm hoping to have a first draft by the end of the year. My hope with Nano is that I will get a significant amount of words down on paper and push almost all the way through to the end of my draft. And that momentum can keep me going while I process the end. Option 3, revision. So some of my students are working on revision. I'm not currently, but I know some other YouTubers are also working on revision during Nano. There's no reason why you can't do that. No reason why you can't be a part of the community, celebrate, and use the collective motivation and spirit that's going on around to push through your revision. You can do that in any number of ways. You could set a goal for yourself to revise 50,000 words, which is probably the most traditional way to do it. You're just thinking about changing those words, moving a little bit more slowly through as you reread, instead of just drafting them down as quickly as you can. I think a month is a pretty good deadline for that, like a developmental revision, meaning a higher level revision. I don't know that I'm suggesting you go word by word and sort of pick things apart, but for a higher level revision where you might still have a certain amount of plot development that you need to do, or you know you need to add in some description or character development, right? That can be really useful to give yourself a timeline on that as well, especially if it's not something you've A, done before, or B, feel super confident in. But the other thing that you can do is to give yourself a timeline for revision. So if you're not feeling like 50,000 words is a good amount of revision for you to do, let's say you want to set your goal smaller because you know that revision is going to take you more time. Let's say you want to set your goal bigger because you know that you can just sort of swoop through and do your first level revisions, and then you'll come back and you'll have more revisions. Depends on what kind of a writer you are, right? If that's the case, then I suggest setting a time-based goal, meaning how much time are you going to spend on revision each day. Let's say you know that to write your 1,700 words or whatever it is for NaNoWriMo, it would take you about 2 hours. Then set a goal maybe of spending a comparable amount of time on revision each day. Can't do 2 hours? Just do 1 hour. Have a really busy month? Set a goal to work on revision every day. Period. End of conversation. Yes, I know, these are rebellious tips. I'm basically telling you to break the rules, but rules are made to be broken, especially arbitrary ones, like these. Option number 4, work on multiple projects. So let's say you've got a lot of things going on. Maybe you're a student and you're in school, and unlike me, you don't just want to avoid NaNoWriMo, even though you have that term paper due. Who's to say that that term paper cannot count in your word count? If you produce 50,000 words in a month, I mean, that's a lot of words, and I'd be proud of you. Like, I'd be impressed. I don't know, like, it's a lot. Or maybe you're just not ready to work on a novel right now. I know, it's National Novel Writing Month. So what? Okay, if you're a writer, if you want to write something and you want to join the community, why not do it? Yes, there are other months of the year that are dedicated to things like this. There is a month for blog posts, there is a month for poetry, there are 2 months of the year where they do something called Camp NaNoWriMo, which means that you get to set your own goals. But these are arbitrary rules, right? Like, who made them up? Who is the authority on these rules? If you want to join the community, go for it. Here's the other thing, you could probably write a novella in about 50,000 words. Or maybe you want to set out to write 2 novellas. Or maybe you know that you have X amount of work that you have to do left on this one novel project that you've been working on, and then you want to get started on this other one. Or you have this story, or you have this script, or you have this poetry collection. I mean, that might be a little bit harder, writing 1,500 words of poetry. Still, whatever it is, you can do it. I invite you to join me, and if other people don't want you in their Nano group, then screw them. I invite you to join my Nano group. I do have a Nano group. I mean, we all have a Nano group. I'm on NaNoWriMo.org, and my username is skbrownell, so friend me, or whatever. All of this brings me to point number 5. Yes, there is a point number 5 and a point number 6. Point number 5, let's say you are interested in this whole writing community thing, you're interested in the idea of writing a novel, but it's halfway through October and you haven't started to prep yet and you don't really know what you would want to write about, and so you probably can't do it. Well, guess what? I've come up with a solution for that too. Brainstorm your way through NaNoWriMo. So this would be the purest, most drastic, most distilled form of pantsing ever, and maybe that is terrifying to you, right? But what if you don't think of it as pantsing? What if instead you think of it as brainstorming? What if you try to write your way through, to discover your way through a story, some characters, a setting, maybe see what types of conflicts arise when you put those characters in a room? A lot of times with student writers, I find that folks have to write a bunch of prose that isn't going to end up in the final version of the book anyway, because they're getting to know their characters. So why not call that NaNoWriMo? I mean, you're working on a novel, it's a month, and it's national? you can do this outside of the United States too. So for some people, this might be extra stuff that doesn't actually end up in the final draft, and for other people, what you start writing could become a sort of skeleton draft, outline, zero draft, whatever you want to call it, of a novel that you can then expand on at a later date. Camp Nano. Whatever happens, you will still gain all of the benefits of Nano. Remember, community, goals, challenge, growth, and you will have moved forward in your writing process. And finally, option number 6. Let's say 50,000 words just isn't going to work for you. Maybe, again, you are that student who has all of those papers due and you don't really feel like you can count those because they're for your business courses and that's not really creative writing or a novel. It's just too far for you. Let's say you're a caregiver and you are taking care of your aging parents. Let's say you're a mom and you have some little kids. And I don't have kids, so I don't know what that's like, but it seems hectic. Yeah, this step is important because it's applicable to anybody, actually, at any stage of the process. You might be somebody who comes into this process and thinks, I am super committed to doing a totally traditional NaNoWriMo. I really want to have that experience. And then something might come along and slap you in the face. Yes, I did just slap myself in the face. Like it did for me in 2016 when I tried to do Nano that year. It came at the beginning of the month, and I was pretty busy and bothered and devastated, and it just sort of set my month on a different course than I had expected it to take. Here's the thing. Things happen. For me in that particular year, I knew at that point that I needed to take a step back from Nano and just let that go. And so that's an important skill that we all need to cultivate and sort of figure out how to deal with when we fail, right? I needed to let it go. I mean, I was like 1 week in, it was just not gonna happen. But for you, it might be different. It might not be a life-altering change that comes up. Maybe it's just that your computer dies. No, oh my God, God forbid. Or your dog has an ear infection, or your car breaks down, or that paper actually takes a lot longer than you thought it was going to take. It's my sister's birthday, it's Thanksgiving, it's my best friend's ex-fiance's wedding. I'm gonna need to be there as a shoulder for her to cry on. Whether you know it going in or whether something comes up at the beginning of the month, you can set your own goals. You can change your goals. You can say, my goal is to write 30,000 words, which would be 1,000 words a day, which is still a lot. You can say, my goal is to sit down and write every day, no matter how many words I write. If I write 2 words because I'm feeling stuck or I don't have time, that's fine, as long as I made the effort to sit down and write. You can quantify that a little bit more and say, I'm gonna write for at least 15 minutes every day. That's the way to start a habit. And you already have all of this community around you on the internet where we're gonna be supporting you, support us back, and there's no better way, you know, to get in the habit of doing something, to challenge yourself, to move yourself forward, than to do it with a bunch of people who are also excited about it. So those are my thoughts for you. I know that that makes me a Nano Rebel. I encourage you to come and be a Nano Rebel with me too. I mean, if you want to do it the traditional way, it's fine. We can still hang out. But I'm just saying, you make your life work for you. There's a phrase for that, isn't there? Oh yeah, you do you. So if you liked this video, please do like it. Please do click the subscribe button, click the bell button, all the different buttons that do different things, because they help me out, because they help you out, to let you know when I will have more videos for you in the future. If you have an idea for a topic that you'd like me to cover, please do feel free to comment below, send me a DM, check out my website, whatever you want to do. I don't know. Oh, and definitely add me as a writing buddy on NaNoWriMo.org, because I'm in this for the community. Okay, that is all I have for you today. I will see you again next week, actually probably sooner, with another video. Bye-bye.